All right. Well, welcome back to the Athlete Cafe. I have no idea what month this is coming out in at this point, but
it's currently Valentine's Day.
It is currently Valentine's Day,
Yes.
so happy
Valentine's
Valentine's Day. I'm going to sit and
though.
watch a movie on my couch. Like, I'm not doing anything exciting for Valentine's Day.
Eat some good food, have a nice dinner,
Yep.
and be nice and cozy. That's my plan.
Is your dog your Valentine? Is Moose your Valentine?
Always, yes.
The important things.
Right. And for the viewing audience, chocolate or roses?
Chocolate every time.
I have to agree with that. I'd go chocolate too.
Or a giant, obnoxious stuffed animal?
No, it needs.
See-
I want an edible gift every time.
See, those are good in theory, the stuffed animals, but then it's like,
What
where
do
do
you
you
do
put
with
it
it?
after? I have one sitting in my parents'
Your
house,
dog
and they're
will
like,
your
what
dog
can
will
we
rip
do
it
with
up for
this? That's true. He would. Maybe that's his Valentine's Day present then.
Moose would rip that thing apart in 2.5 seconds.
Yes, exactly. But
Torn it.
that's the fun part.
But yeah, the answer is chocolate.
Yeah.
Always.
Always edible gifts.
Always edible gifts.
Heard that, chef.
That's what they say for like wedding gifts too. It should always be edible.
Oh,
Money?
No, like the gift that the couple gives to the guest.
Oh, I see.
Should
Yeah.
always be edible.
taking notes.
Yeah.
Right? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Things you learn along the way. All right. Well, today, it's actually been a while since we've dedicated a episode to this topic, but it's something that like we have talked about probably in every episode, but we're going to
Definitely.
focus and kind of hone in on this idea of confidence. I think we have a lot of kids right now that are heading into postseason, heading into tournament play, or
Tryouts.
I was going to say on the flip side of it, are heading into tryouts. And so I feel like
All
these
the
are
above.
conversations that we've been having a lot recently of, you know, everybody wants to be more confident. Every coach always tells kids to be more confident, but like, how do you do that? What does that even mean? How do we make that happen? So it's been a minute, so we figured let's dedicate a whole episode to it.
Yeah. I mean, we had our pre-production meeting the other day, and we scoured the archives, and we couldn't. I literally could not find when we last talked about confidence.
I don't
I don't
think
think-
either
like you
of you
said.
were at
No, we weren't
like
around
you
yet.
you weren't here yet by the time when we did that first confidence episode. So.
That's episode number 2, for those wondering.
I thought it was 1, and then Michael had to correct me and
Don't
tell
forget
me I
about
was
the welcome
wrong.
episode. It counts.
He did fact check me, and then he wanted me to sit there and listen to the whole thing.
Which is not
And I
a
just-
fun thing to do.
Mansplaining on Valentine's Day. Nothing more romantic than
Nothing
that.
more
Oh my gosh.
romantic.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I think
You can't see my eyes twitching
confidence-
a little bit.
confidence is the topic when I feel like when we start working with kids, it's like that's all they want.
Yeah.
When we read our assessments that we get, and you know who we're starting to work with, it's just I need more confidence. He needs more. My son needs more confidence. My
Yes.
daughter needs more confidence. They need more confidence, and it's just like, well, there's a lot to that.
Right.
It's not just it's not just like here you go,
Snap
have
your
some,
fingers.
boom.
If it was that easy,
You get
your heel.
confidence. You
Kick-
get some
Yeah,
confidence.
exactly.
Click your heels. There's no place like home. No.
Exactly. And I think that gets really frustrating for kids because everybody kind of says it as such a simple thing. Well, you just need to be more confident. And then they're like, okay, I need to be more confident. And then we're like, it's a little more in depth and complicated. And they're like, well, everybody makes it seem so simple. Why is it, if the statement is so simple, why is the solution not so simple? And that's, I think, one of the most frustrating parts about life and, athletics in specific is, how do I become more confident? It's not just tell myself to be confident. There's steps you have to take to do that.
Yeah, I think it's especially frustrating for athletes sometimes too, because athletes are used to having like a quick fix or a drill or like something that you can do to automatically see changes, whereas confidence is really like a lot of trial and error, right? It's a lot of thinking through things, going through the process and taking the time to be like, okay, what is working, what's not, and like what pieces can we change? Like you just said, how can we build it over time? Not just like, okay, we talked about it once, I'm going to go out and feel the most confident I've ever felt and have the best game. Like that's not realistic. So it's definitely something that takes time, but it's doable, which is the cool part.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing too is, just from our conversations before this, is we talk about it differently yet similar.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, I think, with this. And I know you have a big, your first big point, I guess.
Yeah.
what you're
So,
gonna make
and I
with
think
this.
this kind of goes along with what we were saying of confidence isn't just something that you can just like pick up, right? It's not, everybody always says confidence is a noun, right? Or they phrase a sentence of like, or the question of, are you confident? Yes or no. It's a very yes or no kind of phrase question. And I try not to ask it like that, but it's such a default because that's how everybody approaches it. Or, you know, do you have confidence? Are you feeling confident? Yes or no? And I often think the answer ends up being no. And then the response is, oh, well, you should be. And it's like,
okay, thanks.
it's like putting the like the word
it.
itself in the definition kind of thing. So I always approach it, and I've found that a lot of athletes, because they like doing things, right? I always say confidence is a verb. It's not just something that we have, it's something that we do. It's an action item. It's something that we actively can work towards. It's an action we can take. So that's the big thing that I talk about is, you know, confidence is not just something I can hand you, right? It's something that you have to do. But that, I think also, I've gotten some feedback from athletes of like, it sucks to be like, okay, you can't just hand it to me. Like, you can't just like put an IV in and now all of a sudden I'm confident. But it gives back a piece of control where I think when you're not feeling confident, you just feel like, what am I supposed to do? But giving, you know, specific things, specific actions you can take can be such a piece of control back for so many athletes.
Yeah, and I think going off of that too, it's like when we start to see confidence as a verb, it's like, okay, understanding that confidence is a feeling, right? So just like being happy or being sad is a feeling, usually either we do something or something happens in order for us to feel that way. So if we're trying to feel confident, okay, what needs to happen or what do we need to do in order to create that feeling? So again, making sure we're acting on it in order to kind of chase what it is that we're looking for.
Yeah, and I really like the point where it's just, you know, coaches always ask, you know, how are you feeling? You feeling confident going into today? Or parents might ask you that on the car ride, and it's like just a simple like yes or no usually, right? And like you said it, then it's just like this, you know, copy paste response.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, but you got it right.
Yeah.
You'll do great.
You'll be fine.
And I think that's the big thing is when beforehand, even if you ask it for yourself, it's like a yes or no thing. But when you're out there, like you said, it's a verb. It's just constantly changing and flowing. And depending too on sport, you know, what sport you're doing too. If you're doing an individual versus team sport, right? Sometimes you can get confidence from the other people around you. But more individualized sports, right? You have to try to find it and have it the whole time that you're out there competing, or however long you're out there competing, which is just crazy. And I know we try to break it down a little bit differently, but for me, I always like to tell my athletes, I go, we're not going to start probably for the first 5 sessions. Like, we're not talking about confidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think it comes as a bit of a shock when I like say that to them. They're like, what do you mean? Like, oh, yeah, it's the most important topic. They're like, well, why wouldn't you start there? I go, I know.
Yeah, right? That's where we've gotten it wrong as coaches and athletes and things like that. It is the most important, but that's why we're not at all going to touch it for.
Yeah. It's like trying to go and just like, I'm going to go do the heaviest weight. I'm going to go 1 rep max immediately. And it's like, no, you got to slowly work your way up to that and build towards that. And then you can kind of hit it. So that's kind of how I try to approach it in terms of like just explaining it like from the physical, mental perspective. But preparation for me means everything. I think if you're prepared, I think that's going to, you know, just help breed a lot of confidence because you've done all the work, right? And I usually go through confidence like twice eventually. So then it throws off my athletes too, because it's like, here's confidence part 1. We'll go through this whole packet. Here's confidence part 2. It's a very boring outline that you'd see in school that you're taking notes. But I think that usually works pretty well, just like going through it and breaking it down because like that's what they're used to, right? A lot of them are student athletes. So it's like, oh, okay, like this is easy and understandable to read.
And
this is how I approach my notes.
That visual of it of, okay, here's the main topic and here's all the subpoints where I, you know, if I don't understand all the other bullet points, I'm never going to understand confidence. And I think that's such a great, like, you know, visual for them to understand what we mean when we say, you know, confidence is kind of the umbrella term. It's the blanket term. When we're trying to build our confidence, we have to build other things. It's not the confidence itself. And that's how we, you know, do confidence. It's how do I make sure that I'm prepared? How do I make sure that I'm, you know, have the right breathing exercises, the right sources to kind of pull from. It's not working on the confidence. It's working on all the other things that will inevitably lead to confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think kind of even taking like another step back too is like, okay, we have all these skills, but what am I going to look like when I'm confident, right? Than defining like what it means. Because even between parents and athletes, sometimes parents are like, oh, my kid's not confident because they're not out there like super loud, super hype. Like they aren't looking like this super confident athlete. So they don't think they're feeling confident. But then you talk to the athlete, they're like, no, I feel great out there. I'm just more reserved, right? It looks different for everybody. So it's figuring out, okay, what does a confident athlete look like to you? How are they acting? And how can we use our skills to create this confident athlete that feels good and feels good in something that like relates to them. It's not forced, right? It's something that they feel comfortable with, and then getting like their parents, coaches, whoever it is, on the same page of like, they're good here. Yeah. They're good.
Right.
Let's not force it. Let's not like put too much pressure on, you don't look confident, so there's something wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point of, you know, what confidence looks like, what confidence feels like, I think has become like a very narrowed perspective. It's a very, this is confidence. If this is not how you're acting, if this is not how you look, if this is not how you feel, then you're not confident.
Or you're cocky.
Yes.
Right? There's the other extreme of it too.
Right. And so I think that's such a great point of, it's about figuring out what does confidence feel like for each individual athlete. And I think that's such a great point to kind of what Michael said of, until we figure out all these other things, we don't even know what we're working towards when it comes to confidence. Like I had a teammate where she was like the most bubbly, the most boisterous. Like she just had like energy. I don't know where she ever got it from. That was her version of confidence. Whereas for me, I could barely make eye contact. Like I was super quiet. Like I was, you know, much more reserved. And honestly, like if I was not acting that way, like I was probably not locked in. Like I did not feel my best. I did not feel comfortable in my surroundings that I, you know, could kind of be that more quiet person. So, you know, that was my definition of confidence. I don't think I would have known that, and I didn't know that at the time. It's something that I've kind of reflected on. Yeah. But we have to figure out all these other things, the preparation, all of these things to figure out what are we even working for.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too, like I like to go really in detail with this because I think it's important. And also, I think that's what the athlete is looking for, right? It's like, all right, what does that mean? Like, what does good preparation mean? And then we break that down. It's like, all right, there's good physical preparation, and then there's good mental preparation, right? And obviously, right, our focus as mental performance coaches, we more focus on the mental piece, but it's still important to know, right? What's good physical preparation mean? It means, you know, you're putting in the effort, right? What does putting in the effort mean, right? You're putting in the hard work and practice. You're going harder and longer and faster than you ever have before. You know, you have the good, you know, schedule of training. Yeah. You're training every single day, right? Like that's good physical. And a lot of it's cool to read through the list, that outline, because a lot of people just are like, wait, I'm doing a lot of this stuff. I go, yeah, you do a lot of it. Now you just know that, and that should help you with the confidence.
That is, I think, one of the biggest things I talk with my athletes about, specifically a curling team that I work with, right? They're the goofiest guys. Sometime I'll get them on this podcast. It will be mass chaos, but they're a good group. But that's what it is. It's you're already doing these things, right? You already are doing so much of this preparation. It's about now it's the intention behind it. It's the doing it on purpose, right? I'm going to purposely go one extra rep. That's always what I do, right? I always want to be the kid doing one extra rep. But now it's I'm doing that extra rep because that's going to help with my preparation and that's going to help with my confidence. It's that connection of doing what you're doing, drawing attention to it, and then getting the benefits of knowing that that should build your confidence.
Yeah.
Yep. One of my like new favorite quotes that I've been using with some of my athletes that I came across, which relates like really well to this, is prepare like a pro, perform like a kid. Right? So prepare like you're a professional athlete, right? Do all the right things, give all the effort, lock in your nutrition, your practice, prepare like a professional athlete would, and find confidence in that. But then when we're actually out there playing, play like you're a kid, right? Play like you're playing wiffle ball in the backyard with your friends, like you're pretending you're up to bat in the World Series, like whatever it is that you're doing, have the confidence that that kid version of you had, knowing that you've put in the preparation that allows you to let go and just do that. So I think that's kind of a fun way to look at it too, is like, okay, lock in, have the prep, and then just kind of
so that when it's time to go prepare, you know, and I think that's a great way to kind of put in, and we've talked in so many of the other episodes, that practice mindset versus performance mindset. Like that's exactly kind of what that's getting
at. That's where I tie it
in. Yeah. And it's always cool to like relate it back to like childhood, because I have made so many game-winning shots in my driveway for basketball,
Exactly.
or home runs,
Yep.
playing wiffle ball, or hitting against my
Foursquare.
garage,
Or
and
like that
winning
at,
Wimbledon so many times.
yeah, like that at bat that never ends. That it's like you just keep getting like another
Yep.
chance because
Yep.
you didn't get the hit
If
you
you-
wanted. Yeah.
Slowly, I'm like counting down from 10, and then
Yeah.
I miss, and
And
then
then
it's
you
like, wow,
keep
there's
counting.
miraculously 0.3 seconds
Yeah.
That's
left.
so weird how that happens.
It's the weirdest clock ever. But I think that's the cool thing, and that's like the physical prep, and then the mental preparation side, like of what we kind of introduced, right? All these different skills that we're trying to build, having some sort of structured goal setting in place, having that like reflective practice afterwards, and trying to see it, and having that reflective practice beforehand as well, right? And just like I think that's the thing that I've started to do more with my athletes is like we'll talk through, what does it look like when you perform at these different performance state levels? Like if you're at like your A level, your best. If you're at your B level, you're like average standard. And if you're at your C level, like that's your worst performance, right? How can you win when your confidence might be the same in all of those, right? So it's trying to figure out, is my confidence the same at those points, or does it change and fluctuate? And how can I still perform how I want to perform or win or compete, right? If I have low confidence that day, if I'm not feeling it, because that's where a lot of this work is why it's so crucial, is because you have confidence when you're at your best, when you're at that like A level effortless style of performance, and usually you feel pretty good with your usual stuff, your standard, your effortful type performance, right, where you might have to exert yourself a little bit more, but you still feel like you can get it done. It's that C level where it's like that lack of effort, or it's just like not happening for you that day, that you really have to try to dig deep and find this stuff, right? And that's usually what you'll hear, but what that means, right, is go back and think to your preparation, go back and think that how long you've been doing this, using your experience, go back to past things, right? Make it so it's just have fun, like you're back when you're a kid. And I think that's the really cool pieces of how, if you're an athlete out there and you're looking to find more confidence or how to build it or know if you have any, I think that's a really good way to kind of look at it.
And I think that's such an important point that like I want to really hone in on is I think we've also started to really say the only way that I can perform at my A level is if I'm confident, right? You're just not always going to be confident. And I think this is such a great thing to your point of that's why we don't talk about confidence first. We don't want to make it this end all be all. It's how do we do some goal setting? How do we do some visualization? How do we do breathing? How do we do emotional regulation? It's how do we build these other skills to inevitably increase my confidence? But I think it's such an important thing of now I have those tools. So even if I'm not confident, there's so many other things that I have. There's so many other things that I can do. I can do the visualization. I can do the breathing. I can do the preparation that is inherently doing the confidence, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have the confidence first, it doesn't mean you're going to not perform well. Probably once you start then doing all these other things, you will perform better, and that will start to increase your confidence. But confidence is not a requirement for successful performance.
Yeah. I think that's where, like you said, a lot of people forget that. Just sometimes you're just not there that day.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. And luckily, I mean, team or individual, I know I said it's a little bit different, but no matter what sport you're doing, there's something or someone hopefully that you can lean on or get energy or confidence or whatever you kind of need. Because sometimes I think those get blended together and they're a little bit different.
And it's hard because you can't always find that right away. Or it's just, if you're in a certain headspace, you can't always access it. So you, Kylene, do a really cool activity, and I got to see you do it. I had done it, with some people, but I got to see you do it with a team the other day, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
So fun.
Which, they're just such a great group. I'm going to call them out, Medina Girls Basketball Team. You guys are awesome. Hands down, one of the best teams I've ever worked with. But can you explain kind of the activity that you do to kind of tap into that?
So,
How do you do it?
This is a newer activity that I've started doing with some of my athletes, but like you said, it's so fun. And I think it's fun to kind of take the athlete outside themselves and get them thinking, right? Get them creative. But what we do is I have my athletes create their alter ego. So I think it's something I'm going to start doing at the beginning of our sessions with athletes, so they can create this person and then really kind of hone in on it throughout our time together throughout their season. But basically, by creating our alter ego, we just kind of allow ourselves to separate the person that we are every day from showing up in the classroom or at home.
What is an alter ego?
Good question.
Yes,
Good
Michael.
question. Sorry. An alter ego is an alternate personality that we have, right? Somebody that we can tap into in certain scenarios that gives us another level up, another personality, another perspective to kind of just, again, separate ourselves from the person that we are every day. So, some examples. Any ideas, Michael?
I have a few, but
Okay.
it's your activity.
Superman?
I thought you were gonna go like athlete.
We'll go
examples.
athletes. We'll start easy.
Batman.
Batman, correct.
A lot of superhero ones
Batman,
you could really
yep.
do for this.
Yep. Okay. Athletes, Kobe Bryant.
The Black Mamba.
Black Mamba, yes. Russell Wilson. It's a trickier one. He's got one.
He's like, well, it's like unlimited or like limitless.
Mr.
usually.
Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right there. Good.
Yep. Brian Dawkins, NFL player.
Gosh, I should know this one. It's dog related, right? No.
Not cool.
What is it?
Weapon X or Wolverine. He's actually kind of crazy with it. He had another locker for Weapon X, like in the locker room. He actually had a whole other setup. Deion Sanders.
Primetime.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I know that
That's
one.
easy.
Yeah, so when we start to think about it, all like so many great elite athletes have this other person, this other mindset, this other mentality that they allow themselves to tap into and turn on anytime they need it to kind of reach that next level of performance, right? Because when we're having fun, when we're letting go of any like limits or hesitations or fears and just letting ourselves be this whole new person, who knows what we can do, right? It's a whole new level of peak performance of just letting go and leaving it all out there. So kind of thinking through, we do it like step by step. So we'll start like, okay, how are you acting? How are you feeling? How are you focusing when you're your best self on the court, on the field, whatever it is? And then we think about the other side of things of like, okay, what is that worst version of yourself? And then how can we kind of transition between the two when we need it? And then how can we level up to that like alter ego, like not unrealistic, but like another level of that best version? What do we name them? How do we turn them on? What does that look like, right? How do we activate it?
Do they have? Yeah.
What traits do they have? And just really kind of creating the picture of like who this person is, and then just how we're going to use that to our advantage. So it's been really fun to see what some of these athletes come up with.
Oh my gosh. And it's funny because I've heard so many different things. Like I have an Irish dancer who she's actually getting ready to compete at the All Irelands this weekend. And this is something that they kind of like came up with her and her mom, but her alter ego is like a honey badger because it's kind of this like cute looking thing, but it
Tyrann
will,
Mathieu.
yes,
Okay.
right. And so she has like her mom even I think got her like a little dance bag that said like honey badger don't care, and like that's like their thing where
Nice.
it's such a quick like piece of communication between her and mom of like you got to just go be a honey badger right now. And then we had one of the girls at this clinic that we were doing who put her mom's name down, and that was her best self because she's hardworking. She doesn't take anything from anybody. She's never done anything wrong. Like she's the best mom ever. So that was hers. And and like it was, some of them were using their Roblox names too, which I was cracking up at. But like it can be silly. It can be really intense. It can be really funny. Like it can be just this other thing to say, okay, I want to level up to that next level piece of play. I, need that extra boost of confidence or whatever it is. It's how do I tap into this other version of myself or this other persona that I've seen or heard so much about.
It's almost like Pokemon. You're like evolving into that next form in a way.
There it is.
But
Exactly.
there's also, I thought of a couple more athlete examples. Like there's two of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Tyreek Hill calls himself Cheetah. Like that's his tag. It's just fast, right? And Justin Jefferson just calls himself Jay Jettas, and he has all the chains and all that stuff. And
Yeah, I forgot
the
about that one.
gritting, yeah, and Jet basically, right? And he just becomes that and takes that kind of persona on, that alter ego. And then when he's off the field, it's completely different. So it's kind of crazy.
And even non-athletes do it, like
Yes.
Sasha Fierce, right? Like it's,
Hannah Montana.
Oh, me,
I'm aging myself with that
I
one,
was
but I
gonna
had to
say-
throw it in there.
me as.
Do you remember like the first episode of Hannah Montana
I
coming
saw
out?
Hannah Montana in concert. Yeah. Anyways.
You're getting off topic.
Sorry, we're getting off topic.
I
But,
also have had this experience
A single
before.
tear just came to my eyes. Right.
but again, like the cool thing with the alter ego, I think going into games, it can help us find that confidence. But then also like when a game's over, we can also kind of put that person away, shut off, and then move on, right? It's not, we're not tying the results, we're not tying that game to who we are as an everyday person. So that also allows us to kind of cope with things better, and just, have fun with it.
Exactly. And that's how, when we talk about, confidence is not the first thing, right? There's all these other things that we talk about so that we can do confidence, right? So that we can build that confidence. It's trying to get to the top of the mountain first. Like, you can't just teleport up there. You have to take the steps. You have to do these things. And like Michael was saying, a lot of it is things you're already doing, but it's bringing the attention to it and getting the full benefit and giving yourself credit of, I'm doing this already. I might as well get the mental benefit from it too.
Yeah. I've slept. I got the necessary sleep. I woke up. I'm following my routine. I've eaten my, meals the way I do. I'm hydrated, right? All that good essential stuff. But I think the cool piece is I've actually have lived the alter ego thing, which sounds weird, I guess, if I don't further explain. Because I know we're going to get into our examples, but mine is I used to be the mascot in college.
I forget
The
this
truth
all
comes
the
out.
time.
It's been revealed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Probably from like 2016 to 2020 when I was in school. It was 75% of the time that was me in the suit, for those wondering or that listen to this. And it literally is. It's an alter ego. I quite literally put on a suit, a mask, and couldn't speak, but I could act however I wanted. It was completely different.
I would pay money to go back and see that.
Oh, I can picture it all
Are there
perfectly.
videos?
There probably are videos. There's pictures. I'm in a lot of the pictures and media. I'm just like, that's probably me. If it's from those years,
Yeah, we're
it's
going to need
probably me.
references when we get back to the office on
Linked in the
Monday.
show notes.
Yeah, like the alter ego thing for sure, because you could just become this whole different thing. No matter how tired I was that day, if it was an early event, if I, if it was just like boring, if I just pass out flyers or something, like I could just become this whole different person and just, because you also have to, right? You have to become the spirit of the university.
Excited, you're
Why are
training.
you laughing? It is in the training.
I was like, the language on that one was too spot on.
And quite literally, if I ever needed a break, we had called it the bat signal. That would be put up. That if I needed to kind of change something, if I needed to just breathe, basically, non-sweaty air, I could just be like, all right, like let me cover the eye of the thing because it's up here and raise my hands. It's just like a really weird signal.
Yeah,
so
but
if you ever see that amongst things, that's what they're doing.
probably
They're
what
going to
it
go
is.
take a breather.
That's funny.
Trade
Good
secrets.
to know.
Trade secrets coming out on the podcast today.
But I don't know. What do you guys I don't know if you have the alter egos, but your kind of confidence examples. I know you gave a couple team ones, but
Yeah.
what else you got?
I think really leaning into like that preparation and stuff is something that I relied on a lot when I played. I know my freshman year of college hockey, I've been a defenseman my whole entire life. That is like the first place I ever stepped foot on the rink, and I stayed there every year after that. My dad was a defenseman, my brother was a defenseman, so I was too. And then I got to college, and then we had a couple injuries on our team, and my coach said, "Hey, you ever played forward?" And I said,
And she said,
"No."
no, I have not.
And
No,
he said,
defenseman.
"Yes." I said,
Remember?
Let me explain the whole story again,
Yeah,
Coach.
right? From the time I first
Yep.
stepped
It's
foot on the
passed
ice.
down generationally in the Wilson
where I
family.
am. Exactly. And he said, "Okay, well, good. You're playing center for the
good,
next
good.
couple games." I was scared beyond belief because I had no idea what to do. Right, it's totally different sides of the game, and like I just felt so lost out there, especially obviously being new on the team. Right, playing with upperclassmen, playing with a different group of people, it can be just super overwhelming, nerve-wracking. And so I locked in my preparation as best as I could. Right, I was watching film. I was like doing all the reps I could get. I was watching the other girls on my team. I was asking like the wingers, I was asking the other people like, hey, where do you want this? And just trying to get as much information and practice as I could to try and feel the most confident that I could. And definitely was not confident, right? Going into those games, I was still scared beyond belief, but all I could tell myself was like, hey, we're working with what we got. This is what I've done to get ready. And as the games went on, it definitely built my confidence, but sometimes you also just have to do it scared and then just trust that it'll build over time. So it happens.
That's a good one.
Just need some experience and
Yeah, exactly.
know that you're still on ice.
Yeah, it's all, the game's the same, right? You just have to change the way you're looking at
You're
it.
just seeing it from a slightly different perspective on the
Yeah,
ice,
and
different
then
location.
yeah, and then like silver linings. Okay, when I go back to D, now I know what the forwards are looking for,
Yeah.
right? Like learning different sides can be really helpful too. So even though it's terrifying, it'll help you in the long run, right? That's what the coaches say.
And you're
It'll be
still
worth it.
talking about it.
It'll be worth it.
Right. But now you're like, oh, that was actually a really good teachable moment. And I'm still going to talk about it. I might not have liked it in the moment, but, you know.
Yeah.
That's what the team needed.
That's what the team
Exactly.
needed. And, you know, it wasn't your first choice, but you lived to tell the tale and say, you know, maybe it wasn't my best execution of, you know, a game, but you learned a lot. And it was something that was still valuable. And you still used it to be like, okay, now I feel better being back here because I know what it's like to be up there. And that just built your confidence more. You had a different perspective than maybe the other team, and you knew kind of what to look for.
Yeah. Fun times. Fun times.
I can't even skate, so
Maybe our next team builder will be
No.
skating.
it will not.
Oh,
Skate in
that
the-
could be fun.
I can skate by walking to my car in the parking lot.
Rather slippery
It has
out there.
been very ice
Snowy and
wrinkle-like.
icy out here in the 216.
And it's just going to keep coming. So I think one of the big things that I relied on for confidence was the people around me. Like, I was very much somebody that didn't always necessarily feel confident in myself, but I guess it's kind of pulled back to the preparation of, I saw my teammate who felt really confident, and I said, okay, I've done the same assignments as her. We compete the same events, we compete the same things, right? So I, you know, was not confident in myself. I didn't have that self-confidence, but she did, and I felt confident in her because I could see her from an outside perspective. I knew what routine she could go up and hit, and I knew how she could feel about it and how the judges responded to it. So I would, you know, really feed off of that. And she was great. Like, she was just such a great teammate, where she, I think, knew that I wasn't as confident and I was a little more reserved. So she would come over and she'd be like, hey, let's go to the bathroom. Let's go stretch. Let's go retape this. Let's go do this. And it was more so of her helping me kind of build that routine and building that preparation. And then I was able to kind of rely off that. And then I was really lucky when I got to college. I had a coach that kind of took over for that, you know, when I went from high school to college, or, you know, even middle school to college. And, you know, helping me, especially after, you know, my first meet out of retirement. It had been about 6 years between my last gymnastics meet and my first one in college. And I was, you know, a nervous wreck, but I think it was using the people around me, relying on them, and, you know, realizing that that's how I needed to do confidence that day, where it wasn't going to be that I had it first. It was that everybody else around me had it, and they also believed in me. And I was like, okay, I'm not ready to like handle that confidence for myself yet, but I'll use what they've got for a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta know where to look.
Yep.
Yeah, for me it was different depending on the sport. So for like if I was running a race, it was all about like the straight up preparation and the routines that I had beforehand. Like I wake up, whatever the race time is, like 3 hours before, it's a big meal, and then, you know, slowly get the warm up in, like 60 minutes before I have like another little snack, 30 minutes before I have like fruit snacks usually, and like a few sips of water, and then a lot of stretching, and then a lot of just waiting for the race to start and doing a lot of striders and things like that. Like that was very much ingrained. And then during the race, it was just mantras and a lot of positive self-talk stuff. That was, or just, you know, using music. I think music's a great tool. So for like, that was track races. For cross country meets, it was just like, I just have to try to talk to myself and just be like, almost like the Thomas the Tank Engine. And it's like, I think I can, basically. And yeah, that's what it was. And then for track meets and, you know, running just laps around an oval, I would just start singing a song in my head, and then by the time I sang it twice, it was over. Yeah. So that's usually what I did for that. And then for tennis matches, it was just a lot of in between point routine work, and a lot of when I was doing doubles, like making sure that the partner that I was playing with, that we're like balancing off each other well, that, you know, one of us is hopefully more even keeled throughout, the other person can kind of freak out and splatter back and forth. So that's usually, I mean, it's just like, because during we think a lot about like the preparation piece, but like during how I'd get confidence, you know, we have these like routines and you know, handshakes and high fives and
all those gestures,
celebrating all the little gestures, things. Yeah, so that's usually how I'd get it done, depending on each of the sports that I was playing.
And I think those are great examples of, I want to be more confident, I have to address and work on the other things. It's not, you know, the confidence itself. Like, that's not really something that we can directly manipulate. We have to go through other channels to manipulate it. And I think that that's the piece that we try to really hone in on our athletes as soon as we get them and they say, I want to be more confident. It's like, okay, great. We're going to do this completely differently than you think we are going to. There's not one tool, one saying for you to become confident. Fortunately, it's not that easy. I would love if it was, but
Be nice.
It's about building all these other tools, having all these other resources. It's building those, finding the ones that you're really good at, because you're not going to be great at all of them. Finding the ones that you're good at, finding the things that you can actively do in real time to therefore get the results of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Anyone got anything else?
No, I think that was all good
No.
stuff.
And I think that's, honestly why, I was we were all talking like, why haven't we touched confidence in 2 years, a year and a half at this point? Because we have, right? Because it's, we talk about the confidence, but every other episode, every other topic that we talk about, we're building those skills to build our confidence. They are the building blocks that get us to be more confident athletes. So it's good, I think, to have the conversation of confidence and the focus, but we always know that we're talking about confidence by talking about all these other things.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's also like knowing when to use all those other things, right? So like this is my last little bit here on this.
Your last
but
word.
yes, but we did it with some of the volleyball teams that we work with the other day. It's like, okay, if this happens, then what, right?
Yeah.
So like if I start to overthink, then I'm going to like use my breathing skills, right? Like knowing that we have, again, a plan. So preparing for how are we going to handle all these situations. So based on the skills we have, am I using visualization? Am I using self-talk? Am I using my reset routine? Am I leaning on my teammates? If whatever happens, then this is how I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So kind of tying all those skills we talk about together and then using that to find our confidence.
Yeah, so it's like, if this happens, that decreases my confidence, then I'm going to do this.
Yeah. I guess the last little thing I'll say on it is, the preparation would make the question. If someone asked me, like, you feeling confident today? I could easily answer yes or no. But when I'm in the thick of it, when I'm out there competing, it's all these other skills. It's, all right, what goals did I set? What am I trying to remember? What are the key points here? Don't forget to breathe. Using those different things like you just said, that's like going to help you during, because your confidence is going to just fluctuate back and forth
All
time.
day long. Yeah.
Right. So I can answer prep before yes or no, and then when I'm in it, it's using all the skills that I've built.
Yep, exactly. So, as as we release the next kind of month, 2, 3 of episodes, right? We're talking about those skills because they are meant to build our confidence.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Wonderful.
That's all I got.
That's all she wrote.
Good work, team.
Good job, guys. All right, we will see you guys next time.
If you like what you're listening to, be sure to follow the Athlete Cafe on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find us wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.